Hey, how you doing? My name is Michael Costa, photographer based out of Mississauga, Ontario, and this is the Photography News Podcast. I only really post these when there's breaking news, kind of like today. So we have the iPhone 11 Pro, along with the iPhone 11, of course, but we're going to focus on the Pro today, and we're going to see if this phone and its camera can be your primary. So we're going to dive into this, but let's roll that intro for now. So we're going to dive into this. Now, of course, with it only launching today, I have some notes here that I've prepared. So if I'm not looking directly at you, don't be offended. I love you. Also, having myself a little rum and coke here. A little too much rum. Okay, now I will preface by saying that I'm not going to talk about all of the features of the iPhone 11 or iPhone 11 Pro. Again, I'm only going to speak to the iPhone 11 Pro and the features that I personally think are actually going to affect you using it as a primary camera. So one thing that they focus on a little bit is that it's more durable. This thing, they show footage of it doing a drop test, and it's really, really intense. It's on this mount, and they drop it from maybe 4 or 5 feet straight onto a really hard surface, and it bounces off, but it takes it like a champ. Beautiful. Not even a screen flicker. Really, really impressive. They talk about this thing having a stainless steel band and a 3-dimensional glass back. Now, I don't know what that necessarily means, but what they are saying is that this is the toughest glass on an iPhone. I never really had any problems with my iPhone XS over here, which actually looks very, very similar from the front. That's good to know because durability actually is a major point of focus, at least for me. I know a lot of the street photographers as well. You're trying out a lot of different things, a lot of new things, and you don't want to be worried about dropping it onto cement or into a puddle. Is it going to be okay? And so from the looks of it, it's very durable, probably more durable than some of the more affordable crop sensor cameras that we're seeing. Another thing to speak to the durability side is that this thing is actually water resistant, still not waterproof, which means don't jump into a pool with this thing. Don't go deep sea diving. It's rated for up to 4 meters, but that's more so like you dropped your phone in there or you accidentally had it in your pocket when you went in for a dip. Now, what I do want to say here, guys, is that it is water resistant. Unfortunately, my iPhone XS here is really just for show. It's honestly a glorified paperweight because I brought it with me to Cuba and I thought it would be okay in salt water. I played around with it a little bit in pools and it was totally fine. But the moment I brought it in the salt water, after 10 minutes, brought it out, I was starting to have some issues, and now after a few days, it is completely fried. Don't take your iPhones into salt water and not even into a pool. To be honest with you, this thing's not pressure rated to endure swimming or jet skis or anything like that. Be very careful with your iPhones. So it's got an A13 chip, brand new chip. What this thing's supposed to help you do is help with real-time processing and help with the low light shots. You're gonna see some really, really, really cool stuff here. I'm gonna make sure everything's linked down below. I want you guys to really understand the capability of this camera and this phone ultimately. It's got a really fast CPU and GPU. Now that's really important because this phone has a super impressive camera. Now I know that it's not as powerful as some of the other ones on the market, but I think as an all-around phone and camera, this thing's super impressive. And I think that what iPhone's doing here, what Apple is doing here, is they're really zoning into the software side of the camera. And obviously they implement and add a new camera. So there are 3 cameras now on the Pro, which is an ultra wide. Now the ultra wide is a 13 millimeter f2.4 aperture. That's actually not bad at all. It's kind of weird for them to say this, 120 degree field of view, 4 times more scene. So I think what they mean by that is, you're going to have a much larger view. Basically, it's kind of like zooming all the way out on a wide. It's basically what they mean. And it's a 12 megapixel sensor. I actually thought it'd be higher than that, but who cares, honestly. I mean, that's cool stuff. The specs are pretty interesting. What I really like is actually the software side. So you'll see that they have a brand new capture system within the camera. It's familiar but new, and it'll actually allow you to go through all of the different zoom ranges from 13, 26, 52, and there are all these different increments in between that. It's really, really impressive that you're able to do that. And that's what I mean. We're starting to see this might be a really good option for you because as an all-around phone, I think this might be the best option, especially for the photographers, because some of those other phones that are focusing on the camera side specifically are not all around great phones. What else are we seeing here? We're seeing they're promising these things. They're claiming 40% more light captured under the telephoto mode. We're seeing zero shutter lag. That's what they're saying, zero shutter lag. That's really impressive with the quality of photo you're getting here. We're seeing 36% brighter true tone flash. I like that they're making a lot of adjustments and modifications to benefit the flash. I know flash on DSLRs, on phones, they've always been known to be really aggressive, but what we're seeing now is that they're trying their best to make it less intrusive and to complement the photo a bit more. Softer lights, studio lights, whatever you're looking for. Really cool stuff. And optical image stabilization. Now, that's not on all of the cameras. That's only on the wide and the telephoto. The ultra wide does not have image stabilization. Still really cool. There's actually a clip in the video where they have it on a gimbal. The footage that came out of that was so impressive. You could honestly shoot a really good short film on this. Now, another thing I wanted to bring up here is the battery life. Now, obviously that's a really big thing. If you're shooting on maybe some Sony cameras, a lot of those APS-C cameras, a lot of the A7 lineups, I believe anything before the A7R3, so the A7R2 down, I know that the A7 II, the one I'm shooting on here, and down as well, they have really poor battery life. I don't know how these things are going to perform on 4K 60 frames per second, but they're claiming to have an additional 5 hours of battery life. I don't know what that means necessarily. I don't know if that's at full functionality, CPUs running to the max, or if it's just, hey, let's sit the phone down, have zero applications running, have nothing going on in the background, and then it runs for 5 hours straight. I don't know necessarily, but nonetheless, even if you get an extra hour out of this thing, that's gonna be really impressive, because I can tell you right now, the XS, super, super, super impressive battery life on that thing before it died. The screen is very impressive. Now, again, I had no complaints over the XS and the beautiful, beautiful OLED screen on that. But of course, the OLED is making a return, but with a more improved Retina display. So what we're seeing here is a 458 pixels per inch Retina screen. Now, I also wanted to bring up, of course, that the editing features that you're seeing on the photo side, if you're familiar with iPhone, the flip, the zoom, the crop, the cut, the brightness, and any of those filters that weren't previously available to you on the video side of things, the native editing software on the iPhones, that is now available to you on the iPhone 11 Pro. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a part of a software update that the other phones are going to have available to them, but we're going to see. Also, the phone has a wicked front-facing camera. It allows for 4K 60 frames per second or 1080 120 frames per second. That's super impressive for a front-facing camera. I think lastly, what we want to talk about here, because of course, a lot of the people that follow me are people that I've met on the streets shooting downtown Toronto, or that just love street photography. And obviously a great part of street photography is shooting at night. It's so much fun, the bright colors, but the hard part, especially when you're shooting on an APS-C camera, is pulling light out of the images. And so iPhone has introduced a really, really impressive night mode here. I'll try to include some photos, but I really do recommend you watching the video. This thing captures very, 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 very impressive footage in night. That's photo and video. I want you to go, you're gonna see the scene where the guy is running through the alley and there's kind of like a backlight. There's also some footage of a female sitting in a car. It's so beautiful. Now, price-wise, this thing's pretty expensive. For Americans, I apologize. I'm Canadian, so I have to go off of the terrible Canadian dollar right now. The cheapest you're gonna get one of these things is $13.79 CAD, which is Canadian dollars. In iPhone 11 Pro Max, $15.19 CAD. That is the 64 gigabyte model. Now, if we want to see what the most expensive model is, we would go and do a 512 gigabyte iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is $2,000 CAD. That is a lot of money. The question is, when do you buy this phone as your camera? When does it make sense for you? And I think the answer is, if you're already shooting on an XS, if you have the money, then you can do a trade-in, and you're going to get a trade-in value that you can use towards that phone, and it's not as expensive. But to be completely honest with you, I want to make sure this is clear. The XS is a great phone for photography and video. You're still getting 4K video. You're still getting a beautiful portrait mode out of that thing. Now, it's not going to have the night mode. It's not going to have the beautiful improved retina display. But like I mentioned before, it already has a great screen. So I will say that it's not necessary to upgrade from the XS, but if you have the expendable cash, or if you are someone who, has some money and they want to upgrade their phone, maybe they have a 7 or 6. I know there are a lot of people that have the older phones, they're looking to upgrade. Maybe they're getting more serious into the photography game, and their old Canons, the T3Is or T5Is, they're not doing it for them anymore. They're struggling in low light. They're not really that durable. That might be a really good option for you. You're going to get a really good, well-built phone that's simple to use. I love iPhone. It's familiar. There's connectivity if you're already using the devices like the iPads. You can use those for editing now. They're super impressive. The Macs, the MacBook Pros. From a photography and video side, again, this thing is super impressive. And it's just a super powerful camera system. I would say it's worth the purchase. But that is the end of the video. So don't forget to like and subscribe. For you people that are new to the channel, this is a channel revolving around the growing photographer. If that is true to you, or you just aspire to be a better photographer, then hopefully there's some tips on this channel that you'll find value in. But leave a comment for me down below. Do you think that the 11 Pro is impressive? Are you going to make the switch? Are you thinking about it? Let me know. What are your thoughts? Leave those down below. My name is Michael Costa. I'm a photographer based out of Mississauga, Ontario, and I'll see you next time.